My brother died because of the carelessness of the woman I left to watch him. And when I asked her how, she just looked at me and said, "These things happen." What I did next turned her world upside down. I'm 20. My brother was 10. He couldn't walk, couldn't talk. When he was 2, he fell off a bed and hit his head in the worst way. He never learned to speak or to stand. He stayed locked in a body that didn't work. And I stayed with him. I grew up around meds, wheelchairs, weighted blankets, all of it. Missed parties, skipped dates, ignored school dances. Didn't care. He needed me more. I knew every little signal he made. A blink, a twitch, a soft whimper when his cartoons stopped playing. I knew how to calm him when the world got too loud, how to rock him just the way he liked, how to hum the tune that helped him fall asleep when he was scared. We had our own rhythm, our own little world. And it worked. It worked until I had to leave. My dad got into a bad accident out of state. Some drunk guy blew a red light and T-boned him on the way home from work. Broken ribs, fractured spine, collapsed lung. He was all alone in a hospital 4 hours away, and I'm the only one left. No mom in the picture, just me. So yeah, I had to go. I didn't want to leave my brother, not even for a night. But I thought I was doing everything right. I hired a caretaker named Rebecca. Middle-aged, calm voice, soft-spoken. Came recommended from a support group I was part of. She said she had experience. I wrote her a whole damn book. His routine, his meds, what to do when he gets upset, how to tell when he's cold, how to feed him slowly so he doesn't choke. Even told her never to leave him alone. I made her swear. She nodded and smiled and said, "Of course, honey. I got this." I left that Friday morning. Took the first bus out. Held my breath the whole ride. The first day was fine. I FaceTimed Rebecca at lunch. He looked sleepy, but calm. She said he ate a little applesauce and was watching his usual cartoons. I tried to relax. Focused on my dad. By Saturday night, I was standing outside my dad's ICU when my phone rang. It was my neighbor. She sounded breathless, panicked. Just said, "Come home." Something happened. I remember everything after that in fragments. Running. Shaking hands. Missed bus. Borrowed car. Red lights. The sky turning darker and darker and darker. And then I got home. And the ambulance was already there. My brother was in a body bag. I froze. Couldn't even scream. Everything inside me just shut off. Like someone unplugged me from the world. They said he had a seizure. He aspirated. Choked while seizing. Alone. Because Rebecca had gone to grab milk from the store. She left him. Left a nonverbal, medically dependent 10-year-old alone for 40 minutes. By the time a neighbor heard a strange sound and came to check, he was already turning blue. They tried CPR. Called 911. But he was gone. Rebecca showed up halfway through. Said she was only gone a few minutes. Kept saying she thought he was sleeping. When I asked her why she didn't stay, she looked at me like I was overreacting. And then said that same sentence again. These things happen. I swear to God, I felt something snap in me right there. Something I didn't even know existed. Grief and rage wrapped in one violent twist. I didn't hit her. Didn't scream. Didn't cry. I just stood there and watched them zip the bag all the way up. The funeral felt like a joke. White coffin. Closed lid. Tacky flowers. Everyone kept saying things like, "He's in a better place." I wanted to scream. No, he's not. He should be here. He should be curled up in his beanbag watching cartoons. He should be blinking at me when I whisper, "You good, bud?" He should be here. The police said it was a tragedy, but not a crime. Said unless I had a contract that explicitly stated she wasn't allowed to leave, it'd be tough to charge her with anything. Said unless she hurt him on purpose, there's no criminal intent. Said the system's not really built for cases like this. You know what that means? It means a woman can walk out on a disabled kid, leave him to die, and still go home and sleep in her bed that night. I sat on my bathroom floor and screamed into a towel until I couldn't breathe. Then I got up. Because I wasn't going to let this go. She can say these things happen, but not to my brother. And not without consequences. After the funeral, I didn't speak to anyone for a week. I sat in his room, lights off, barely breathing. I didn't touch a single toy. Not a blanket. Not his toothbrush. I couldn't. Maybe I didn't want to let go. Maybe I didn't want to forget the smell of baby lotion or the way the corners of his mouth twitched when he liked a cartoon. Or maybe, deep down, I was waiting. For what? I didn't know yet. But I knew not to disturb anything. It was quiet grief at first. The kind that makes your skin feel too tight and your heartbeat feel like static. But then came the doubt. What if it was my fault too? What if I hadn't left? What if I'd never trusted her at all? My mind kept looping those questions. Over and over. Like some cruel recording stuck on repeat. I started watching the security camera footage, not even because I suspected anything yet, but just to see him one last time. One last blink. One last twitch. One last proof that he existed. But then something stopped me cold. It was Rebecca. In the kitchen. Mixing something into his food. I hit pause. Rewound. Played it again. She had his plate on the counter. Poured his applesauce. Then pulled something from her bag. Small. Wrapped in tissue. Sprinkled it in. Stirred it. Then carried it out like nothing happened. My chest collapsed in on itself. I sat there staring at the screen like I couldn't move. What the hell? Not just neglected. Not just forgotten. Poisoned. I felt like the air had been ripped from my lungs. Like I was standing underwater. The grief I'd been choking on exploded into something else entirely. Now I had direction. Now I had a target. I hired a lawyer the next day. His name was Daniel Monroe. Young, sharp, the kind who doesn't smile much. He looked over the report, the footage, the timeline. Then he looked at me and said, "We're going to need more. Don't say a word to anyone yet. Let's build this right." And we did. While the world thought I was still grieving, I was documenting, backing up files, printing photos, cataloging timestamps. The deeper I dug, the uglier it got. Turns out Rebecca had a record. Not criminal, yet, but enough to raise every red flag. She used to grow illegal plants in a greenhouse outside town. Psychotropic stuff. Things banned by the FDA. She'd sell the extracted compounds under the table to people claiming they were for research. An old blog of hers, long since deleted, talked about how some minds need to be quieted for their own good. I nearly threw up reading it. And here's where it all connected. My father had once reported someone in town for growing unregulated plants illegally. It was buried in a bunch of old court records from 21 years ago. Guess who the report was filed against? Rebecca Lynn Rhodes. She'd been fined. No jail time. But it had been enough to shut down her whole operation. That was before I was even born. And now? She'd found her revenge. She waited. She planned. She played nice. I didn't touch anything in that kitchen for days. But now I had to. I got up, feet dragging, heart pounding. Made my way into the kitchen, like walking into a crime scene I hadn't known was one. I opened every cabinet, every drawer. My hands were shaking so bad, I nearly dropped the box of Ziplocs on the floor. Then I saw it. A small white jar, hidden behind the oatmeal container. No label. Half full. A weird, chalky smell I couldn't place. And the second I took a breath near it, everything went black. I woke up on the living room floor, disoriented. My head pounding. My throat dry. Someone was calling my name. Aubrey. Aubrey, can you hear me? It was my Aunt Melissa. She must have used her spare key. Said she'd been calling me all week and drove over when I stopped responding. When I finally sat up, she was holding my hand like I was made of glass. "You scared me," she whispered. "Why didn't you answer your phone?" I lied. Said I hadn't been sleeping well. That I skipped lunch. That it was probably just low blood sugar. She offered to stay the night, but I told her I needed space. Quiet. Just for a little longer. She left reluctantly, hugging me tighter than usual. And then I locked the door and went straight back into the kitchen. This time, I wore a mask. I bagged that jar, sealed it tight, and labeled the pouch with the date. Sent it to a private lab under an anonymous name. Said I needed a full chemical panel. No questions asked. I didn't expect the results to come back so fast. 3 days later, I got an email that made my stomach drop. Analysis: contains neurotoxic alkaloids. Origin: likely homemade. Known to cause cognitive regression, seizures, respiratory distress, and death in long-term exposure. My brother had been poisoned. Not just neglected. Not just forgotten. Poisoned. I felt like the air had been ripped from my lungs. Like I was standing underwater. The grief I'd been choking on exploded into something else entirely. Now I had direction. Now I had a target. I hired a lawyer the next day. His name was Daniel Monroe. Young, sharp, the kind who doesn't smile much. He looked over the report, the footage, the timeline. Then he looked at me and said, "We're going to need more. Don't say a word to anyone yet. Let's build this right." And we did. While the world thought I was still grieving, I was documenting, backing up files, printing photos, cataloging timestamps. The deeper I dug, the uglier it got. Turns out Rebecca had a record. Not criminal, yet, but enough to raise every red flag. She used to grow illegal plants in a greenhouse outside town. Psychotropic stuff. Things banned by the FDA. She'd sell the extracted compounds under the table to people claiming they were for research. An old blog of hers, long since deleted, talked about how some minds need to be quieted for their own good. I nearly threw up reading it. And here's where it all connected. My father had once reported someone in town for growing unregulated plants illegally. It was buried in a bunch of old court records from 21 years ago. Guess who the report was filed against? Rebecca Lynn Rhodes. She'd been fined. No jail time. But it had been enough to shut down her whole operation. That was before I was even born. And now? She'd found her revenge. She waited. She planned. She played nice. Then she poisoned my brother and made it look like an accident. And I was supposed to believe it was just negligence? Hell no. We filed the case quietly, stacked it with everything. Lab report confirming the neurotoxins. Security footage showing her mixing his food. A timeline of symptoms leading up to the seizure. Her deleted blog archive, recovered from a tech friend. A full breakdown of her past infractions, including the greenhouse bust. And a medical expert who confirmed the cause of death lined up perfectly with slow neurotoxin exposure. Daniel built the case like a damn war map. Every angle covered. Every loophole closed. She never saw it coming. By the time the cops knocked on her door, they already had a warrant. She tried to play dumb, cried, said it wasn't her, said it must have been a mix-up. But the evidence buried her. They found traces of the same toxin on her kitchen gloves. They found a Google search on her phone for slow-acting neuroagents. They even found emails, burner accounts, talking about how payback always comes eventually. She's in prison now, charged with premeditated abuse leading to the death of a dependent, tampering with food for medical harm, and criminal retaliation tied to a cold case. She'll be in there for the rest of her life. But none of that brings him back. I still sit there sometimes, in the dark, holding his old toy giraffe and wondering how someone can hurt something so pure.